evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. We are broadcasting live from our headquarters right here in the economic capital city, Douala. First, our major stories. A fire incident leaves several families in the Grand Angar neighborhood in Bonaberry, Douala 4 subdivision homeless. Eyewitnesses blame the inferno on poor electrical connection. You'll be listening to some of the victims in this edition of the news. Meantime, civil society actors and human rights defenders paint a bleak picture, presenting a red report card of human rights violations in the Republic of Cameroon. The media voices heard today in front of representatives of the torture organ of the United Nations Organization in Geneva, Switzerland. In this edition of the news, we'll come back to some major events that depicted acts of torture and degrading violations of human rights. Also, we'll take you to the southwest region where 15 separatist fighters have dropped their guns. They are said to have surrendered to the National Gendarmerie yesterday. The ex-fighters were presented to the Senior Divisional Officer for Limbe Division, Tundong Chamberlain. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. If you are just joining us, then no, you are watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. And for presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. We begin with this human interest story. 6 different families have left homeless after a fire incident that occurred in the Grand Angar neighborhood in the Douala 4 subdivision. Sources say the fire was caused by poor electrical connection. 2 bars alongside its content were destroyed. We have details with Smart Jikan Gabriel.
It was a complete empty space that we met after a ravaging fire that occurred in the Grand Angar neighborhood in the early hours of the evening. Several families are now left without shelter. At least 6 families are homeless, without shelter, and 2 big bars within the zone, all destroyed by the inferno. The inhabitants of the area say the poor electrical connection caused the fire incident. The fire was caused by poor electrical installation. I don't actually know if technicians are the ones who didn't do their work well or it's something else. According to one of the victims, before this incident that occurred, the neighborhood has been in darkness for more than 2 weeks. We have been suffering from epileptic electrical supply for the past 1 to 2 weeks. I left the house for my meeting, and minutes after, I was called that my house is in flames. For her, if the firefighters brigade arrived in the zone on time, some properties could have been saved from burning. We called the army rescue soldiers and they didn't show up, saying there was no water, and ended up not even coming. Finally, birth certificates and other important documents were destroyed. The victim who lost their properties now have their eyes to cry as they start from crash to replace the burned properties. Fortunately, no life was lost.
Smart Jikan Gabriel reporting there. A group of 15 ex-separatist fighters have joined the DDR center in Boya, which is a chief town of the southwest region. According to security forces of the Gendarmerie Company in Kumba, the alert separatist fighters were operating in the Dian and Mehmet divisions respectively. We have details with Ase Luciliengo.
15 ex-separatist fighters from the Dian and Mehmet divisions of the southwest region laid down their arms and approached the forces of the Gendarmerie Company, Boya Road in Kumba. They recount their experiences and motivations behind their decision to abandon the armed group.
I joined this secession group because they forced me, and I don't know about my colleagues, I believe it's the same. They forced me, saying that if I don't join them, they will chase us away because we are Bamileke. So I decided to join the ASI treasurer under the late General Evo from Teke. After he was neutralized, I decided to join the side of the government because I saw that that's the right thing to do.
Tundong Shambalang, Senior Divisional Officer, Limbe Division, praised their determination and urged others still in the struggle to surrender and join the Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Center.
I am encouraging them to go to DJI in Boya for them to continue to reassure the colleagues who remain in the bushes that the head of state said they should welcome them. And I am here effectively to welcome them. They should not fear anything. Those who are in the bushes, come and join your brothers and sisters who have decided to join the side of the state.
The over 7-year-old armed conflict plaguing the two English-speaking regions has led to a significant loss of life, displacement of people, and a humanitarian crisis affecting thousands.
And away from insecurity, the Limbe city dwellers are decrying the untidy state of the down beach. The touristic site in the southwest region is now void of visitors due to its nasty state. Local traders say the activity has been affected, leaving them at the mercy of poverty. Sedi Chakutio takes us to the Limbe down beach in this report.
The seaside town of Limbe, a neighborhood in the southwest region, are unrecognizable. Giant piles of garbage have taken up residence in these places to the great dismay of locals and other tourists. This tourist town, although very popular, are in dire need of maintenance. The inhabitants say they are fed up while decrying this situation.
The sea, water is brought by the sea, so whenever we have a heavy rain, always bring them all the way from Motengene. You know, even sea don't love death inside the sea, so that is the reason why we always find that by the side of the sea. Yes, that is what causes the sea to be always dirty.
So sometimes when the thing hip up like that, it's because the workers were not there currently. And sometimes from the information they will say that they have not been paid. So that's why you will see the thing will hip itself like that.
The actions taken by local authorities to clean up these beaches are considered ineffective and are lacking in consistency, yet the town of Limbe is renowned for its sandy beaches and its botanical garden.
And now to a major lead story. As the United Nations Anti-Torture Committee reviews Cameroon's effort in the fight against torture and other cruel, inhumane and degrading treatment, let's now take a look at some emblematic cases of torture recently recorded in the country with Babila Jonathan.
Cameroonians are raising concerns about the increasing acts of torture and other cruel, inhumane and degrading treatments inflicted on fellow citizens. Lawyers, political leaders, human rights activists, women leaders, civil society organizations and ordinary citizens have petitioned the head of state on the issue. In a 4-page open letter to the President of the Republic, the petitioners cite what they describe as emblematic cases of human rights violation. The case of music star Longue Longue, tortured in a cell of the Military Security Department in Douala and forced into exile. The murder of journalist Martinez Zogo by security services, and the case of another journalist, Samuel Wazizi, who died of torture and military detention. Equinoxe television broke the news of his death 1 year later, and the Ministry of Defense said he died of sepsis, a life-threatening illness.
Some representatives of the people of Cameroon keep displaying their lack of empathy towards victims of the Sancho double landslide, even after criticisms from civil society and opposition political leaders. This is the case with the Speaker of the National Assembly, who opened the November parliamentary session in Lower House without according even a minute of silence for those who died in the landslide. Innocent Aze reports.
Questions keep flying in the air if indeed some state authorities or representatives of the people really care about human lives, despite vexations and criticisms of Cameroonians on lack of empathy by the Biya regime vis-à-vis the deadly double landslides on the Chancleve. Some state authorities still preside over public events shamelessly, snubbing the Sancho catastrophe as a known event. A case study is the House Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Kavayege Jibril, while chairing the November session of Parliament that opened on Tuesday in Yaoundé. Shockingly enough, The parliamentary session began with no minutes of silence observed for the Sancho landslide victims, even when the search for more bodies is still ongoing. He also spoke lengthily about natural catastrophes, focusing mostly on the floods in the far north region. On others, he was vague. Though geographers and other experts proposed best methods to search for corpses or possible survivors and to prevent natural disasters, the House Speaker did not take into consideration need to discuss these with the MPs. Important suggestions which came as preventive measures were not taken before the second landslide and the use of less efficient machines to conduct the search by the rescue team on the Conclave. No words of comfort, no form of concern to aggrieved families. Commentators have termed such a habit as heartless and a normal behavior bore by the entire Biya regime. While the House Speaker snubbed the Sancho incident while opening the session in the lower house of Parliament, those in the upper house managed to clear the mess by observing a minute of silence for the Sancho landslide victims. It is not clear for how long such manner of governance will last. Till date, the #1 man of the Republic is still expected to address the nation on the unfortunate incident on a highly and popularly used national road in the country.
Out of Cameroon, Nigerian security analysts are voicing concerns after defense officials warned of a new insurgent group known as the Lukwarawas, operating mainly in the country's northwestern region. Meantime, Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko calls on supporters of the ruling Pastef party to remain calm after he had earlier asked them to take revenge for the alleged violence committed against them during the campaign for parliamentary elections that is to take place on Sunday. Dr. Christopher Fominio, that is the Senior Associate and Regional Director of Central and West Africa NTI, denounces acts of violence while calling for calm. We have details with Cedric Chakutio.
In Nigeria, the military says they are facing an additional security threat in the northwest of the country. They say a new armed movement called Laku has carried out incursions into Sokoto and Kebbi states, two Nigerian states bordering with Niger. The spokesman for the Nigerian army makes a link between the July 2023 coup in Niger and the emergence of this new armed group in northwest Nigeria. Indeed, for Major General Edward Buba, the overthrow in Niamey of Mohamed Bazoum a little over a year ago by the soldiers of the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Fatherland disrupted joint patrols on the border for a time. These patrols have since resumed, but the Nigerian army says it remains vigilant in a context where the Northwest has already been confronted for years with armed gangs and the increase in kidnappings for ransom. And in Senegal, Ousmane Sonko, head of the Pastef party for the legislative elections and head of government since April, reported on his Facebook page account on the night of November 11 to 12 attacks suffered by his camp in Dakar, St. Louis, and Kanglu. He blames them on supporters of Dakar Mayor Barthélémy Diaz, who leads a rival coalition running for the legislative elections and was convicted of shooting a person dead in 2011 amid political violence. Violence during these legislative elections, which does not please some political personalities. To Dr. Christopher Fominio, African Regional Director NDI, this legislative election has to move in peace, without interruption, and with transparency.
Transparent et plein de vérité.
On November 12, Ousmane Sonko finally called on his activists to continue the campaign in calm and peace for the remaining 4 days.
Cedric Chakutio ending this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always choosing ETV. Coming up next in some few minutes is Equinoxe with Serge Alain Otto. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing. Bye-bye from now.